Welcome to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giants football? If so, sit back and relax as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, to Two Giant Goofballs, the New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, hopefully soon to be joined here by Rob, who, see here, actually, can you guys hear me? Okay, can you guys hear me now? Let me know in the comments section there. Let's see here. Okay. You got to, sorry, my thing isn't showing me on the meter that is working, so she says it's low. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to try to get this fixed here. Testing. I should be back. Can you hear me now? Okay, I'm seeing it's better now from Deb. I'm hoping that's with that there. Anyway, welcome, fellow goofballs, to Two Giant Goofballs, New York Giants podcast. I am Drew here, soon to be joined here by Rob, who's, again, running late here. I swear he's alive. He's okay. I promise. It's all good. But, yeah, he's been dealing with that fun traffic there lately. And for some reason, that comment, now that I did that, will not come off the screen. That's a little funky. So I guess KXN Dart here may be on the screen here for a little while. I don't know what's going on here, guys. StreamYard is putting out a whole bunch of new updates lately, and for some reason, I feel like things are getting a little wacky in here. But yeah, guys, we have some more Giants news to go over with you guys here as we go over all the latest news here within the Giants, including Abdul Carter officially signing his contract. That's really the big news here from the day, along with a bunch of other news here. So first off, let's talk about some cap space that the Giants got today. So Giants cleared $10 million in cap space, guys. $10 million. And they did that by restructuring the contract of course, Brian Burns, the big signing from last year, the $30 million guy, and who they've signed 10% of his salary now into a signing bonus, which helps free up a ton of money there. So this is interesting because they're you think that and you go, okay, what's the move here? Well, the move was Abdul Carter signing his contract. We'll get to that with a little bit here with you guys. But you get the chance to look at this roster now, and you notice again, this is what we keep on saying. There's a lot of moves we can make to free up money. Been saying forever, like there's a lot of moves, guys, we can make to free up money on this team. So you look at things like you got the move here with Brian Burns getting $10 million in savings there onto his contract. Now you got, of course, things like Andrew Thomas that you can move some money around on him as well. So there's a lot of things you can do to go ahead and add money onto this. So again, we talked about Gabe Davis before. That's still out of the question. Just because we move money around, because I've heard a lot of people talking about this today, just because we move money around to sign, a rookie deal, doesn't mean the Giants can't go ahead and do, other moves at that point later on. So, fret not if that's what you're looking at as a bad sign there. It's a good sign. It's a good sign. It's a thing that they're able to maneuver at that point because of the way they made these contracts here. $10 million, literally all it did was take care of basically what Abdul Carter's got his contract for. There's plenty of other moves they can make there. So glad to see that actually has some flexibility there for once. I mean, how many times have we looked at this roster and this salary cap situation going, well, what the hell are the Giants going to do? Because it's insanity. Like it's, the last couple of years, it's been like moving around just to make the slightest move to sign a minimal contract, but now we have the ability to move around as needed because there's been a lot more changes to this roster over the last couple of years in the Joe Schoen era, who has definitely been much better with the salary cap than Dave Gettleman was. That's for sure. So as we said, the move was made to go ahead and sign Abdul Carter to his rookie deal there. So that's a really good part of this whole thing, because you really want him into camp the second it starts up. You've seen it before with players. Remember, Bosa did it a few years ago when he was a rookie, where the guys sit out because they want their big contract. They want to fight and argue over the littlest, dumbest things that, quite frankly, aren't nearly as important as getting a rookie into his training camp on time, ready to roll. So it's a fully guaranteed 4-year, $45.3 million deal with a $29.5 million signing bonus. So that's a lot of money, guys. That is a lot of money. I'm waiting, and they're going to cue the buying mama a house video. It seems to be what they always do whenever these guys sign their first deals. And honestly, it's a nice thing. I'd probably like to buy family things too at that point if I get that. But I like the fact that, again, it's done early. He's ready to roll. He's ready to start the season with no problems. And it was also a funny moment today. I don't know if you guys saw on Giants social media, but they had the defense in a meeting today, and Lawrence Taylor came out to talk to the team. First off, always great to see LT. Again, the freaking GOAT. That guy is. He's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. There's no question about it. If you think anybody else, at least on the defensive side of the ball, was better than him, you flat out, you just don't know football. But he walks into the room, and they go to Abdul Carter. Oh, you know this guy. That's literally how they played it. So, it was a funny moment the team had there. And, I like that the two of them were smiling the whole time, too. Like, there's no animosity over the whole thing. I know people are a little worried about that with Abdul Carter because of the whole number thing. I think Abdul Carter meant it with respect. I really do. Let's be honest here. When you grow up an edge rusher, I don't care what generation you're in, LT has that swag where you look at him and you realize what he was and you want to emulate what he was. That's the goal. Like, that's the gold standard. So you can't blame a rookie for wanting to, show a love to him at that point there. And there was no disrespect on either side of the whole thing. LT was just like, no, I'm good. That's going to stay retired. And Abdul Carter never said a damn thing wrong with it. So, I think a lot of that was them just starting trouble that they needed to start with that. The problem was, Beeps, it got too public. If it wasn't public, we would never have known. Nobody would ever tell the story, but, it got out. So it is what it is on that there. But no animosity on those two front whatsoever. And like I said, Abdul Carter signed up, ready to go. Hopefully, him and LT got a chance to sit down and really go over stuff there, because it's really, like I said, a great thing to be drafted as an edge rusher to the Giants and have the chance to talk to some of the greats like that. The LTs, the Strahans, even like the Leonard Marshalls, the Justin Tuck, Osi Umenyiora, all these guys. So I'd love to go ahead and hear about more times these two meeting up and talking and, watching film together and learning, because that's a great tool to have, LT's mind in there. As long as he doesn't do the cocaine hotel parties and all that kind of stuff, he's good there. So, Malik Nabers, guys, also in the news here. So Malik Nabers was named a top player under 25 here recently. Now, again, Malik Nabers is still just 21 years old, guys. Going to be 22 right as the season starts there. Remember, he turned there right after that strip club incident last year there. That, again, was made a huge deal for no apparent reason. PFF was the one who authored the list there, and they said Nabers is the closest receiving threat to Brock Bowers coming out of 2024. And depending on which metric you want to favor, there's a reasonable argument he could be ahead of him on this list. In a stacked 2024 rookie wide receiver class, Nabers was the best of the bunch, leading the group in PFF receiving yards, receiving grade, 87.1, and targets, 165, both top 10 marks for the position. Nabers was the only rookie wide receiver to crack the top 10 in PFF WAR in 2024, ranking as the Giants' most valuable player in that regard by a significant margin. So I love to see that he's getting the love there. Let's be honest here. With the numbers he put up last year, you can't not. Like, you can't not give this guy the praise he deserves. To have the season he had while battering injuries, being really the only legitimate top tier threat that the Giants had on offense. While, going ahead and dealing with the quarterbacks he had to deal with. Daniel Jones, Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock. Guys, the fact that he had a rookie year like that is a goddamn miracle. And honestly, I think you could make the case, and this is going to be something that, I might get a little hate for, but I'm going to say it point blank. You could make the case that he had a better rookie year than OBJ, who I know is the gold standard there for rookie receivers for Giants there, because he was just absolutely amazing. But you know what the big difference between Nabers and OBJ was? Quarterback. OBJ had Eli Manning there. What did Nabers have? Do you really think that if a guy like Eli Manning was to come out and be the quarterback for Nabers that rookie year, that he wouldn't have put up a whole lot more? That he wouldn't have been in position to catch a whole lot more? That Eli wouldn't have seen him open when he was down the field a whole lot more? All these things that, quite frankly, he was, handcuffed against. Because there was just no way keep up with that. Absolutely no way. Like, you literally that man was playing his rookie year basically with handcuffs on him. This year, the handcuffs are off, though. I'm really, really excited to see what this kid does, having a legit quarterback. That's going to be nice. And again, I know Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, these aren't top-tier quarterbacks. I'm not trying to say that for a single second here. But they're legit NFL quarterbacks. Let's be honest. A guy like Daniel Jones, if he doesn't succeed this year, very well could be out of the league next year. So, I'm really, really excited to see what happens there. But congrats to Malik Nabers again for getting the kudos he quite frankly deserves, and probably isn't even getting enough of, to be very frank. Like, that's not even enough. Again, the Giants, we talked about this before we talked about Bobby Okereke in yesterday's episode. The Giants have been so bad for so long that people just don't even want to talk about them. Like, national media-wise, they don't want to even talk about it. They want to talk about the Bills, the Chiefs, the Bengals even. I would love to see, like I said, what happens now him with a real quarterback throwing in the ball. This kid could easily put up 1,500 yards with a legit quarterback. Again, not even a top tier, just an actual legitimate NFL quarterback. So, yeah, very, very excited to see what happens with him this year. Now, we also got another rookie to talk about from last year, and that's Drew Phillips, who's gone ahead and fixed his eyes. So he had LASIK surgery recently there. So very curious to see what happens there. Listen, it's one of the things you don't ever hear much with NFL athletes or even pro athletes in general, except for sometimes baseball, because they wear the goggles in the batter's box and stuff like that. But, you don't really hear very often about NFL players having trouble with vision. And it's a huge thing. How many times in football do you hear the term vision thrown around? He doesn't have the vision to see the ball. He doesn't have the vision to find the receiver. He doesn't have the vision to find the gap. He doesn't have the vision to, you hear that over and over and over again. But you never, ever, for some reason, hear any comments whatsoever about players that have eyesight issues at that point. Well, Drew Phillips, like I said, he's gone ahead and gotten LASIK surgery. And I don't care, listen, if he's wearing contacts on the field, which I heard he was wearing something to help his eyesight, they said in the article I read. So obviously I'm assuming contacts because I never saw glasses on him. If they actually fix his eyesight to being, much better without having the uncomfortableness of wearing contacts. I know a lot of people that I've talked to in the past. Again, I'm blessed with having better than 20/20 vision. So, but I've talked to people in the past that quite frankly have trouble feeling comfortable with, contacts on. So, it's a nice thing to see that he's getting the problem fixed. It's another good thing to look forward to with year 2 of Andrew Phillips, because this is going to be I have a feeling, a nice season for him. And this could be a big part of it here. If this improves his vision, this improves him as a player. Point blank. And he already had a goddamn impressive rookie year. And I feel like I need to keep giving this kid kudos, because quite frankly, when we drafted him, Rob and I were like, whoa, hold on a second. This kid's a project. Why would you draft him like that? We were wrong, point blank. Like, I admit freely we're wrong. We're not always right by any stretch of the imagination. We're right much more often than we're wrong. This kid was a kid we thought was going to be a project, and he came in and he balled out pretty much right away. Set the tone for the secondary. That was weird. Like, he was the guy that was, setting that tone as a rookie. Look at guys like, Dory Jackson, for example, who's his whole entire career was a guy that wouldn't go after running backs, basically, just cowered away from hitting a running back. Well, with Drew Phillips next to him, just smacking right into a running back, guess who started doing it last year? Dory Jackson. Drew Phillips was a leader as a rookie. And I got to give him a lot of credit for that. And I give him credit for working hard in the training camp and working hard in the offseason to fix some of the issues that we saw on tape of him when he was in college. Because there was some issues with him as far as his turning of his hips, some of his, the slight motions at that point. So, it's a great thing to see, and I think he deserves a lot of kudos for that. And I think Jerome Henderson does as well, who's obviously gone now as the secondary's coach for the Giants there. But again, I think he deserves a lot of credit as well because he was the guy's position coach. So, all right, guys, we're going to pay the bills real quick, and then we're going to be back with a couple more bits of news here to give you guys there. So we'll be right back. Whenever I can find this video thing. There we go.
Thanks for watching. Like the show? Of course you do, or you would have turned it off by now and not be hearing me. There are plenty of ways to support the show. YouTube is the best place to join us, and we offer memberships there with fun benefits like custom emojis and early access to video clips. Of course, there you can also send super chats and stickers to send one-time support payments. The best way to support the show is to buy these drunk idiots beers at buymeacoffee.com/2giantgoofballs. Along with one-time support payments, there are also monthly plans, so you can continue to help kill their livers each month. You can also show people that you are a goofball by visiting our store at 2giantgoofballs-shop.fourthwall.com. We got everything from shirts, hats, phone cases, funny candles, buttons, stickers, and even a 2 Giant Goofballs towel to dry off your goofballs. Of course, you can always support the show for free by simply hitting the like, subscribe, and share button wherever you are watching or listening to this. Hit the thumbs up on YouTube. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps the show tremendously, and quite frankly, the goofballs suck at marketing and need your help to get the word out. Thank you for being part of the Goofball Army and for taking the time out to support the show.
All right, guys. So, yeah, we got a little bit of news here to go over with you guys there. And there was a couple of things specifically with Cam Skattebo. We've been very high on. I mean, hell, I have. Literally, I got my gnome here with the Skattebo name right on it here because we have so much fun saying his name on the show here. And we're excited to see an old school smash mouth running back here wearing a Giants uniform again. That's something really cool to look forward to there. So a couple of things came out there. So first thing first is Cam Skattebo was talking to Kay Adams, who somehow gets by. Wait, is like, did she just appear out of nowhere and start getting like every single goddamn interview? Like, is it just me who's noticed that the last like year or two? Like all of a sudden, like I feel like I didn't hear that much about her, and all of a sudden she gets every interview. It seems like, but kudos to her. It's just funny how that like out of nowhere that kind of happens. It feels like, but she was sitting there talking to Kay Adams, and he said, "Obviously, I wanted number 4, but it's retired. My brother wore 44 in high school, and growing up, I've worn it a couple of times in the past. So it's kind of a family number, a generational thing for me and my family. I wear 1-4 for me and 1-4 for him." I gotta say, guys, I kind of like the answers that I'm getting from a lot of these rookies this year. This is not the first time I've heard something from Cam Skattebo with an interview, and he's shown a lot of maturity in his answers. Now, don't get me wrong. This was not a tough question. Like, I'm not trying to sit here and say, that this is a ridiculous, like, difficult question. He really had to dance around the question and say things not to offend people. Obviously, that was not the case. But numbers, for whatever reason, and I'll be honest with you guys, again, I was never that good at playing football myself. I don't try to front and make myself seem better than I was. But for a lot of football players, for whatever reason, the number is a big deal. It is a big deal. Now, me personally, again, I never thought it was a big thing, but to a lot of guys, it is. So for him to come up with this is my family, this is me representing me, my brother, this is me representing the Skattebo family here. It's a nice answer. A lot of people come out with things like, oh, I wore this because it looks nice, or I wore this because I got this gold chain or whatever, and I just didn't want to buy a new chain. Like this was a nice answer, I thought. This isn't the first time, again, that we've seen a mature answer and a respect for family out of a player. Again, I've talked about it before. The Jackson Dart coming into the office for the first time and opening the door to let his whole family walk through Facely first before him. Maturity. Respect for family. These are the things I want out of rookie players. Because you know what? Is there exceptions to the rule, of course, of what I'm about to say? But I guarantee you, if you get a bunch of kids in this building here that have respect for their families, those are the same people who are going to have respect for their teammates. There's a correlation there. And I guarantee you, if you do the math and that you talk to people who played in the NFL, you'll get that same reaction out of them as well, because it's just a natural transition at that point. Because when you're around people like that so much, it's a family. It's almost like all of us, like we all got jobs we do, 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or whatever the heck, schedules you guys got. Maybe you're working now as you're listening to this even. Think about the people you work with. And think about the people that you could tell by how they talk about their families and all that are dedicated family people. Are those not the same people that have your back at work all the time? Are those not the same people that help you out whenever you need help at work? So I love seeing that kind of thing. I really do. Again, I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic, because I feel like we've been burnt so many times before by players coming into the Giants franchise there. But I feel like this is a really exciting rookie class here. And this is another reason that's got me all pumped up and curious to see what Cam Skattebo and the rest of this rookie class does here coming up this season here. Now, also, more Skattebo news here. He was named a secret weapon here. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, is he really a secret weapon after what he did in college? Like, he became like a household name to at least, people that are watching football. I mean, maybe not the average person at that point there, but he had such a huge performance at the end of the season there in Arizona State that he became, at least in the football world, became kind of a name there. And this was an article about sleeper picks by Draft Wire's Scott DiBenedetto. He said the Giants struck gold in the 5th round of the 2024 NFL draft with Tyrone Tracy. He rushed for 839 yards and 5 touchdowns while adding 38 catches, 284 yards, and a receiving score. They're hoping to duplicate that success with Skattebo. The Arizona State product is arguably the toughest running back in this year's class and can be a 3-down contributor in Brian Daboll's offense. He totaled 338 touches, 2,316 scrimmage yards, and 24 touchdowns last season, and has a play style that'll be hard to keep off the field. Skattebo may not hop Devin Singletary on the depth chart right away, but he'll get there in time. Guys, I think he could get there right off the bat. I hate to say it that way, because Devin Singletary, you notice what happened when Tyrone Tracy went ahead and, started balling out. Did you really see Devin Singletary after that, guys? Did you see, Singletary just coming off occasionally and doing, occasional rush at that point to spell Tracy, and that's it? Like, Tracy was clearly the workhorse. Like, it wasn't like a split backfield in any way, shape, or form, which is what I think is going to happen with Tracy and Skattebo here. I think, Motor may end up being the 3rd running back, which is crazy because he's getting paid a lot of money for, a running back and a lot of money for what he's going to end up producing probably this year in the field here. Not hating on him for saying that. I'm just saying it's a little odd. But, it's... Listen, you can make the case even he's potentially the best 3rd running back on a season here. Like, how many teams have a guy who's a 3rd running back on their roster that's not far removed from being a 1,000-yard player? Singletary did that multiple times. He did it in Houston. He did it in Buffalo. Like, this is not a scrub, but no resume whatsoever. And while he was never an A-tier running back, he was certainly a B-tier. But I think Skattebo's got the chance really to be that split horse back there, for lack of a better term. Like people say workhorse back all the time, everybody says, but split horseback, meaning he's going to do a ton of carries. Tracy's going to do a ton of carries, and basically everybody else in the roster, Singletary, Gray, Turbo, all the other guys that may or may not be on the roster when it's all said and done, will not get a lot of rushes at all. And that's if Eric Gray's even on the roster. I hope he's, gone like he needs to be there at that point there. But, like I said, I don't know if you can call Skattebo a secret weapon because of what he did, a sleeper pick there. But I do think that he's going to have a nice rookie season. He's done all the things right so far, and I think he's gonna fire up and bring a little toughness to this offense, which it needs. So I'm excited to see what he brings to the table here. I'm excited to see what the season brings for him. I'm excited to see the transition of the running game overall, and see what happens with Tracy being able to actually sit a spell. By the way, I heard proof of life. I got proof of life from Rob. He's trying to get on right now, guys. So, it's like I said, hopefully we'll have him on shortly. But to be honest, we're almost kind of done here with news here today. Again, this is kind of the slow part of the year, so we have little bits and pieces to give you guys here. But, at least until camp comes up, unfortunately, not going to be any crazy big stories, barring any kind of signings like Gabe Davis or something like that. But we do have one more bit of news here for you, and that's Evan Neal. Evan Neal is officially a guard, they're saying now. So Paul Schwartz of the NFL Post was confirming that this is a done deal. He's officially a guard. He's going to be a guard now officially this year. Sean O'Hara, obviously longtime center for the New York Giants, came out and said, I think it's probably the right move. I think last year was a year for him to either prove you can play tackle or you're going to have to try to play something else. Knowing the type of kid he is, I think he's going to attack it head on, and he's always had a positive attitude. Now he's just got to put it all together. He's got all the tools. Sean, did he forget what he said? Call the fans fickle and all, but making burgers. I mean, is that really positive attitude? And I'm not trying to knock on him because he, knocked the fans. That's not a, me going back at him because he said this about fans, so I have to go back at him now kind of situation. That's not it. Let's listen to what he said about the fans. He said, the person that's commenting on my performance, what does he do? Flip hot dogs and hamburgers somewhere? Most critics really don't understand the game of football to the level that we understand it in this building. So why would a lion concern himself with the opinion of a sheep? I'm just going to focus on Evan and getting better. I honestly do not care what anybody has to say about Evan Neal, because they're going to talk anyway. At the end of the day, I put a lot of good things on film, but people are going to and find the bad reps, and that's what they're going to highlight. That's what they're going to put out there. I can't control that. So why would I care? And how can you say that you're really a fan when you're out there when we're out there battling our asses off and the game wasn't going well, but the best you can do is boo your home team? So how much of a fan are you really? That's what he said, guys. Positive attitude. You think that's the first time he said something like that? Maybe the first time a microphone was around. He also called the fans bandwagoners and fair weather fans, by the way, guys. I'm just saying. You make those kind of comments, there is no way I can call you a positive attitude guy and a level-headed guy. Now, am I going to say he's a horrible person because he said it? No. First off, again, he's young as hell. We all did stupid things in our early 20s. He's also a guy who's dealing with a lot of pressure. He's probably very disappointed in the way he's played and the way he's had his career so far. I'm not going to condemn the man to say that he's, a POS or something here. Like, that's not where I'm at. But I think it's a little extreme to say he's had a positive attitude the entire time. Like, that's clearly not the case. But, Giants haven't done right by him either, guys. Let's be honest. Like, I know there was the talk of him moving to guard, a year or two ago, and he kind of turned it down and didn't want to do it. And then it, became a whole thing where he said that he came out the womb a tackle and all that kind of stuff. Like, no, first off, the Giants should have never let that happen. The Giants should have taken control of the situation and said point blank, he's a tackle, he's a guard. That's what they should have done. Now, the Giants also, by a lot of accounts, and again, I don't have firsthand knowledge because there's HIPAA laws and all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of things that have been said about how they didn't handle his injury correctly. And that's why he's been injured for so long. I mean, hell, he was still on a bike for half a training camp last year. So he's put up with a lot with this franchise. I don't doubt he's putting the work in. I just do doubt when they say he's always had a positive attitude. When I see the comments like what he said there about us flipping burgers and being fair weather fans and all that kind of stuff, that tells me that he is a weak-minded person. To a certain degree, at least, a weak-minded person. And I'm hoping the success that he's been looking for, he finds this year as a guard. Listen, he's a Giant. I will root for this kid as long as he's a Giant. The second he's not a Giant, I don't know. But as long as he's a Giant, I will root for him. But I can't say I'm holding out hope for huge success. Now, again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think moving him to a guard is a great thing because his biggest issue he had was setting the edge as a tackle. People got around him. You got help on either side when you're in the guard position. He's also a mauler as a run blocker. He had a great year as a run blocker last year. It was the pass blocking he still sucked at. So, again, I think a move to guard is good. I wouldn't even be shocked if he takes a starting guard job. But there's nothing to say that, Greg Van Roten is an automatic lock to be in right guard right now. I would not be shocked at all if the Giants would prefer Evan Neal to be the starting right guard, just to prove the point that they made the right draft pick. They just had him at the wrong position, but they figured it out. They worked their tail off. They figured it out. They developed him. Teams do that kind of crap all the time. Plus, there's the whole JMS debacle, which is, somebody, again, that they drafted as well. But, Greg Van Roten could easily step in at center and spell JMS at that point. So, all these things are definitely possible. We'll have to see what happens with Evan Neal overall there. Now, before I get going here, because I'm also stalling to see if we can get Rob on here for a second so that y'all know he's alive because he's having computer issues. He's been texting me. I see the comments here. I see Deb there with any decent comment, the kickers out there, and I've seen a lot of people saying kickers. Let me take a look for you guys real quick. I wasn't anticipating having that discussion right now. So I'm a little unprepared. I'll tell you that point blank myself right now. Let me take a look and see what kickers are left, though. I'm going through the list here. Walter Football does a nice list here on top, players for each position here and to see where they're at. Let's see. You got a lot of players that really are a little up there in age. I think if you're going to replace him, it makes sense to replace him with a younger player. That's for sure. Let's see here. I'm trying to look here. I got this one option here. I'm trying to see who's signed and who's not signed. That's part of the problem. These aren't the best at telling you that kind of stuff there. The weird thing is sometimes Wikipedia is actually pretty good for that. Let's see here. So it looks like a free agent right now. Here's one. Eddie Pinheiro. Looks like he is a free agent right now currently. Played with the Bears, played with the Panthers. Let's see. Austin Seibert is also looks like potentially available as well. So I mean, there's some guys out there available, but not really any big name guys, obviously. Like if you're looking for big name guys, you got to get that in free agency and hope somebody drops. I think the only person that you could sit there and say is a big name that is currently available as a kicker, and I hate to even bring it up, but it's Justin Tucker. Now, I wouldn't go near him. He had, has had a long career. He was potentially, one of the best kickers to ever play this game. He's 35 years old at this point, coming off a horrendous season, coming off all these allegations against him. I mean, let's be honest here. That's the real reason he got cut by the Ravens. I know they're going to say because of performance issues last year, but the real reason he got cut was because of that. So, guess what, guys? We have a special guest star, I feel like, at this point here, because he's been gone for so long here. But we do have the Rob is in the building.
It's me, Rob. Would you let me out? Untied me.
I untied you, yes. You got out of the closet that I was hiding you in.
Yeah. Classic call traffic. My God, I saw 7 accidents.
So I'm saying, what's up with you guys in Jersey? Like, you got trains that are like stopping working. You got sinkholes in the parkway. You got planes that you can't find. Like, what's going on here?
Oh, geez.
Get your stuff together here, people.
Oh, it's terrible. Well, 5 accidents were in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. But luckily, you are here, Rob. It feels like forever since we've had you on your own show.
Been a week. It's terrible.
Literally, Jay was in here asking for proof of life.
Here I am, Jay. Thanks for the stir.
He exists. He does exist. And you know what? You joined us at just the right time as well, because we're leaving now. We're actually run down all the news articles that we had to talk about there. Unless you want to give any random thoughts on anything, Rob. We just kind of went into random thoughts on kickers. A question was asked.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Deb. I saw Deb last night. I listened to the show, although I was driving on the highway, so it was not texting, especially in the rain.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a great player for us for a very long time, but he's getting up there with he's got a little bit of that injury issue going on. And yeah, eek. As much as we loved him in the past, it's time for him to go.
Yeah.
The cost of him and just his age with his availability.
That's in the injuries.
Yeah. I say it all the time. It's cliche. The best ability is availability. And
you should coin that.
Ooh.
Get t-shirts made. We can put them on the Goofball store.
Put on the mug.
Oh my gosh. It's crazy. Deb also says, and this is actually, listen, I was thinking about this. Should we even bring this topic up? It's not really Giants related, but you know what? Deb, you brought it up. We're going for it. She said, not Giants news, but Caleb Williams said he did not want to go to Chicago, said it's where a quarterback's going to die. Of course he did. This is, I think, the only franchise in the entire NFL that has not had a 4,000-yard passer, right?
Yeah.
I am pretty sure that's the case. They've had a couple of decent quarterbacks. Jay Cutler wasn't a bad one. He
was serviceable.
Yeah, he was serviceable. Obviously Jim McMahon was had a couple of good years there in Chicago as well. But yeah, he's not wrong. He really isn't. And here's some of the comments he said in his book about how apparently he was never shown how to watch film. That's insanity. And this is why I always get it when teams that need a quarterback go, I need an offensive minded head coach. Because Eberflus, besides being a guy who was clearly unprepared to be a head coach, we knew that for years before he was ever even released as the head coach there. Before even that, he's a defensive guy.
Yeah, listen. At the end of the day, if your GM's a defensive, came from defense lineage, that's what the team's probably gonna do more often. Play some really good defense. That's where their focus is gonna be. It's kind of what you know. So yeah, it comes to offense.
But it's also if you get a guy who's a defensive head coach, let's say you go out and get a guy let's say a Rex Ryan back in the day with the Jets. Obviously, that's as defensive minded coach as you get. Well, be smart enough to learn a little bit on offense while you're a head coach, and be smart enough to hire somebody who knows offense. Like, go get yourself a legit offensive coordinator.
Yes. Literally just took the words out of my mouth. Like, you get one of the best. Like, one of the guys that's looking to become a general manager and say, hey, listen, not a general manager, sorry, a head coach himself, and say, listen, here's your stepping stone. You come here and we make this work. Guess what's happening to you next?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you go get somebody who developed a quarterback elsewhere. Kind of like, and I know it hasn't necessarily worked out because the pairings definitely had some issues over the years here, but kind of like what Dable did when he went out and got Mike Kafka. That was a brilliant hire. You went out and you got a guy who was credited with developing Patrick Mahomes to at the least a certain degree.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's the kind of coach you should go get when you're trying to develop a quarterback still. But for whatever reason, defensive coaches don't always do that. And listen, Caleb Williams, I don't know. I just feel like I still am not a fan of his personality. And a lot of it is because it's still the whole crying in his mama's lap thing. I can't get past that. No. I really can't. Like, I'm sorry. You just showed me point blank in that moment when you did that in your senior year that you are not a leader of men, that you cannot go ahead and lead a team. Because when the going gets tough, the tough don't get going into the mommy's lap and start crying.
Yeah. They go right back to the womb, if you will.
Yeah, and it's like this whole thing about, all this stuff coming out now is part of why I also wouldn't want anything to do with Caleb Williams' team. This is more about the issues. This is a book this is coming out of. Like, the book hasn't been published, by the way, yet either. Book is getting published in September. So, yeah. Now, the quote about Chicago, I got to think the exact quote. Chicago is the place quarterbacks go to die, is the exact verbiage he used. That's word for word what was said. It was Carl Williams, Caleb's father, who said that. Now, they also there are people saying, Caleb wondered out loud, do I want to go there? I don't think I can do it with Waldron. So, yeah. He apparently considered signing with the UFL to avoid the draft.
Huh. I mean,
consulted with lawyers to find a way around the league's collective bargaining agreement while considering signing with the UFL. This is all coming from that book, guys.
That's intense.
Yeah. Now, this is an ESPN senior writer, Seth Wickersham, who is the one who went ahead and made this book, by the way. But let's be honest, he doesn't write these things unless he has things to back it up.
Yeah.
Like ESPN would not even tell him point blank, like, you want a job at ESPN, like, you're gonna get us in trouble with the suit and all this stuff. They would not allow it. Yeah, without proof. He's got proof, obviously. So Caleb Williams tell this stuff, and that's a rocky boat. Now, Ben Johnson actually came out and talked about it too, by the way. He came out in a press conference. I don't know if it was today or the day before, but I saw it on TikTok today. So I assume it's going to be the last day or two. And he came into the podium and basically addressed it right off the bat. It said, basically, hey, that's all before I was here. I don't have nothing to talk about there as far as that. All I can tell you is the last 4 months I've been here, he's been a great teammate and a great person to have on this roster. So the fact that he's trying to get it off the bat means it's a bigger story in Chicago.
Yeah,
where
Chicago.
They're probably not too happy right now and probably painting their fingernails red with anger over the whole process, probably.
Yeah. Red means I'm upset.
And then, of course, Deb also brings up yesterday we did have the passing of Jim Irsay as well, the longtime Colts owner. People got really confused, by the way, too, because he is not the guy who left Baltimore in the middle of the night, by the way. That was his dad. I've seen a lot of people in comments on a lot of posts on that talking about that. Now, did the man have his demons? Listen, there was all kinds of rumors of drug issues, alcohol problems, all this kind of stuff with him. And I know a lot of people, again, commenting on that for some reason during his death. Again, I don't see that's the point. Like, If he had addiction problems, that's something that,
he wasn't out of rehab. So like, it's not like he wasn't trying to fix the situation.
Yeah,
it's
but
you're battling demons. You don't need to talk about it at this point.
I don't think when he dies that people need to put comments about it. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
no, I get you.
Probably doing coke and up in heaven or something. I saw people doing stuff like that in comment sections. Like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, how classist can you be? Now, if it's a guy who like, I'm trying to think of let's say Ray Caruth. Like, we all remember that story. Ray Caruth dies. You put whatever goddamn comments you want. He put a hit out on a woman who's carrying his kid. You put whatever whatever comments you want there for that.
Yeah.
Like, that's a horrible human being. Having issues with alcohol and drugs does not make you a horrible human being whatsoever. So
people battle the demons.
Exactly. So I don't get why I see a lot of people doing that. He did a lot for the sport. Pat McAfee, who I don't always listen to Pat McAfee, by the way, but I catch clips here now and again. He talked about him and said point blank that he meant a whole lot to him, meant a whole lot to everybody basically who was ever a cult. He said point blank, there's a reason why every cult that gets in the Hall of Fame asked him to introduce them at the podium, because he means that much to everybody who's ever played for him. Like, there was as kind of words as Pat McAfee could give. And let's be honest, guys, Pat McAfee, love him or hate him, he just says what he thinks. Like, you can really dislike the man, you can disagree with him. Like, I'm not trying to say he's perfect or he's, a great guy, but the man speaks his mind. Like, there's no doubt on that one there. So,
shoot straight from the hips.
Exactly. So, all right, guys. Well, that's going to call it a night for us here. Unless you have anything else, Rob. Anything else you want to comment on?
I don't think so. I mean, it's pretty much the tail end of everything. Yeah.
Now, next week, guys,
I'm alive, Jay.
We're going to get a full dose of Rob, because also at least one episode next week I might not be here for, because I got a friend visiting from out of town. So I'm going to have plans throughout the week there. So I think probably Wednesday you guys will get a full dose of the Rob. It sounds like a disease that way, doesn't it?
No, it just sounds like I'm elevating something else.
Do you have the Rob?
Oh, you got the case of the Robs. We better take this comb.
Anyway, guys, like I said, we'll be back again next week, though, for you. As always, we are live every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, Facebook. I gotta laugh at this because Deb says now Jay's disappeared. He has disappeared. He got tired of me talking for the last couple of episodes. Anyway, we are live as always on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter/X, Twitch, and of course Rob's favorite, my link profile. And of course, as always, we're available the next day on all the audio podcast platforms: Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, all the big ones there. Listen, guys, if you haven't already, again, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the share button there. Again, appreciate you guys for popping in there. Appreciate Rob for popping in. It was very nice of him to grace us with his presence here today. And as always, fans, go G-Man! Go G-Man! Who's this?
I'm here. Who's doing this? G-Man!
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm